Hello, Tifin.
Hi, Claire.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. It's good to be here.
It's good to be here with you too, and thank you for being on the show. You and I met, I would say, about a year and a half ago. We started working together within a group of coaches, and I am so excited to have you on the show because let me give you a quick introduction, can I?
Sure. Yeah.
So for many years, you taught school and you coached. Specifically, you taught sixth grade. And more recently, what you've done is you've combined your coaching with your knowledge of astrology, study of astrophysics. Nope, you tell me.
No, I'm not an astrophysicist.
Okay.
My love for astrology, I've studied metaphysics. I think that's what you got in there.
That's what I can.
But as a teacher for many years in middle school, and then a coach the last 20 years, and now I'm blending my love of astrology with my coaching. And I offer astrology services and readings and ongoing coaching to my clients.
Great.
Where we draw upon the guidance from the astrology.
Perfect. And I think what's been so fantastic with me is that since I started working as a coach now 10 years ago, I started to notice when you leave corporate America has a way of making time just blend and be the same. As I started to work outside of corporate America, I realized that all my clients all of a sudden would be in the same kinds of moods. They would all be stuck. And then move forward 2 weeks and they would all be rescheduling because they were so busy with the productivity of life. And then all of a sudden, a month and a half after that, they would all be exhausted. And what I started to realize is that the universe and the world around us, the seasons, nature, have this way of bringing us along. And when we're in the flow of it, it works. What I see a lot happening with my clients and total honesty with myself is that sometimes it feels like I'm just pushing water uphill, right? I'm going against the flow. Everything feels hard. And then I reach out to you, I give you a call and you say, Claire, of course it's hard this week. Such and such is not aligned and just give it up. Why don't you circle back next week and you'll find that it's much easier. Your creative juices are going to come back. So that's what I would love to talk about today.
Yeah, me too. One of my favorite things to talk about.
So I'm going to ask you a few questions. You want to say anything before I begin, or?
Just to acknowledge that, yes, in noticing ourselves and our clients, I find that too. My coaching clients for years would show up with similar themes, questions, or, that sense of struggle or flow. And it really was a pattern that you could follow. And then when I started looking at it through the astrology lens, it made a lot more sense to me. And in offering people the context of what's happening with the planets, I find that people can understand that energy and work with it rather than struggling so hard against it.
Yes. Excellent. Okay, so let me start with my questions. And this is what we've already been talking about, but here it is formal again. People stress themselves out because they don't have clarity about the flow of seasons, of the other people that they're working with, maybe of the stars and planets. That's my version. How would you describe it?
I think we have, I view it in two ways. I think we have the stress that we put on ourselves when we try to be who we're not. When we start our careers, we're often so eager to please and to be just the right kind of employee in whatever role we're in. And we see leadership as requiring certain skills from us or certain strengths, that we ignore who we really are and we try to fit that mold. And that creates a lot of stress. Astrology can help you align with your natural gifts and talents based on the map of your astrology chart. And I try to make it very relatable, very, speak to people in layman's terms. What are your strengths and your gifts? We connect it to the astrology. So the stress can come from trying to be who you're not being aligned with yourself. And the stress can come from pushing the river, like you say, working out of sync with the seasons, with the energy of the cycles. So the sun cycles through the zodiac in the course of a year, through our seasons in the Northern Hemisphere. right? And every month we have the cycle of the moon, and it's predictable new moon energy, full moon expression that we're all really, it's easier for people to tap into that. We can see the moon and the phase. And I help people align with what are the energies coming from the universe and how can you work with those energies rather than struggle against them.
Yeah. And I love that. And you and I were talking a little bit before that, what's the difference between going with the flow and just sort of giving up and not driving the bus in your life or career? Because certainly we advocate driving the bus, you know, trying to push your destiny a little bit. And yet here we are saying, no, relax, go with the flow, recognize.
Well, I think it is. I think it's really a dance, Claire. And I think astrology gives us a map and a sense of the context of the energy that we can work with, the flow that we can move with. But we are beings of our free will and our own choices and actions. And we need to be proactive in our lives. We need to be making those choices and taking the actions to create the lives that we want to have, to be moving ourselves forward in our careers and in our families and in our lives. So it's a balance of how am I asserting myself and how am I aligning myself with the ease of the energy.
Yes. And also the asserting yourself is also is also aligning yourself with what you want, what's good for you, leveraging that.
Absolutely. So the work we do as coaches to help people discover their values, their beliefs, their, you know, looking at their dreams and goals and how are they going to get there. And then astrology is another tool like values clarification and, you know, dreaming and visioning that can help them create greater ease. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, great.
Yeah.
So what, well, we've talked about a lot of that. Can you share a case study or a story about a client who got enormous value using their chart or using the planet energies?
Sure, I do. I have a client who's worked with me for about almost 2 years now. I think March will come up on 2 years. And this is a client in her early 30s who has been in a management position in the restaurant business for years, working hard, advancing in her career as a manager in hospitality. And she's someone who has in her own personal chart a lot of Cancer energy and Libra energy. And these two are very soft and nurturing and emotionally sensitive and looking for harmony and balance. And she found herself struggling in that management role because she was trying so hard to be authoritative and decisive and really directive in her leadership style. And what changed for her was learning her own chart and drawing on those natural strengths of hers around softness, around harmony, around nurturing and creating boundaries with people from that softer side that works really well for her.
And so what kinds of things does she do now that are more aligned?
Well, she has made some shifts in her career. So she, in her work and her love for health and wellness, she's now taken on more of a coaching role in her industry and helping people with nurturing and creating wellness programs. So she is still in leadership in her company, but she's directed more towards her interests and values and her natural style of communication and drive. And she also, as a Cancer person, for example, you're ruled by the moon. And so she has learned to really work with the cycle of the moon in setting her intentions, when to take action and be proactive, when to assess, and when to surrender and release. And so she's really actively working with that cycle. And it's given her a lot more ease and flow in her life.
And confidence.
And confidence. Confidence has shot up. You know, she's no longer doubts herself or has that, you know, a saboteur pressure of I'm not a good enough leader because I'm not directive and strong and authoritative.
Yep.
She's not that type of person, but she is a very effective leader when she comes from her authentic style.
Yep. I love how we have different models that you and I use, except we're coming towards the same thing, right? When you can be yourself and leverage yourself, you can actually work more flexibly with others. Um,
And having a sense of how your style can be perceived by others.
yes.
And, you know, in that, because we do work with other people, we work with teams, and knowing our own style is one thing, and knowing how you can work with others of different styles. And I know we've talked about different models, right? DISC or Myers-Briggs, or I see astrology as another very powerful tool to understand ourselves and others.
And I also, I heard you say that this client you mentioned was 32. And I also find there's something often that happens, not all the time. For some people it happens earlier, for some later, but I work a lot with people in their 30s, and it does seem to be a time of enormous shifting in career where you finally stop being that like, oh, I have to get an A in every subject, and oh, I have to do whatever my boss says, no matter whether I like it or not. And yes, mostly we have to do what our boss says, but we're better off understanding where we excel, where we don't, and how to how to let go of some of that.
Absolutely. And Claire, you're speaking, I'm listening from my astrologer lens, right?
Yeah.
But about age 30 is the cycle of Saturn. And that's when many of us step into our full adulthood. We've been going with the flow, our family expectations, following, you know, school and the expectations, getting the jobs we thought we should have. And somewhere around 30, we really have a reckoning of, am I doing what I want to do? Am I in the job and the work and the circumstances that I want? And start taking more adult responsibility for that in our lives. Yeah. And then the cycles of Jupiter on 12-year cycles. So around 36, there's a boost in what we see as opportunities and possibility. Jupiter's that expansion and hopeful positivity planet. So when it has its full cycle, we have another boost of like, stepping into what we see as really possible for ourselves. And so I help people throughout their lives. There are different markers or milestones based on the planetary cycles that we can work with as well.
Nice. No, I didn't even know I was stepping into that.
I know. How about that?
I'm learning so much more about what you do. It's really fascinating. Okay, so then I was going to ask you, you've read my chart about a year ago. What should I worry about or be excited about in 2019?
Well, I don't really recommend worrying, you know that, but I don't find that very productive.
No shoe is about to drop for me. That's a relief.
Well, what I am looking at in your chart, Claire, and I'm going to offer this in a general context for your listeners, is that today's January 4th, and tomorrow we have a new moon in Capricorn. And this is the beginning of the winter season. Capricorn's the sign in the beginning of winter, so it has that initiation beginning energy. And Capricorn is an earth sign, very practical and foundational. So all of us can use this new moon to set intentions or goals around stabilizing and creating strong foundations and structures in our lives. And I'm looking at where that falls in your chart, and that's in an area of your chart that's about joint resources and investment. And this advice could be for the next month that you look at what are the joint resources, financial, energetic, partnerships in your work, you know, that can be shored up. How can you strengthen the foundations and structures around joint resources or partnerships that bring in resources?
Nice. And here we are partnering today.
Here we are. Right? For me, and here's the cool way that works. So in your chart, the Capricorn new moon is in that 8th house of shared resources. In my chart, it's in the area of career. And so I'm focused on creating structures and foundations for my work. And this serves both of our goals.
Yay.
Yay.
So cool.
Yeah.
All right, good. Well, I want to, I know I don't want us to go too long, but I want to know if you have any parting thoughts. I'll let you think about that for a moment, and I'll just remind everybody that your website is Your Stellar Life.
No. It's tifindillon.com.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
It has changed.
No.
Oh, really? Oh,
my business name is Your Stellar Life. I have a Facebook group of that name, but my website is www.tifindillon.com.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So all of
I
that.
hope you'll have show notes where we can include the website. And
yes, and in the blog post that went out, it will have that information. And you
Great.
also you've included the planning guide.
I would like to. Can I take a minute to describe what that is?
That's what you should say.
So a structure that I've created this year for my clients and myself is a guide to planning with the planets. And this is a digital document with calendars, charts for the new and full moon, and all of the guidance on how to work with these planetary cycles and energies this year. It's published quarterly, so it's a 3-month view of what's happening. And I do a live webinar at the beginning of each quarter. That's happened already, but if people purchase the guide, they get the guide and the recording to the webinar. And then each quarter that will be sent out prior to the start of the quarter.
Great.
So this is a great tool to learn about the general energies and the context astrologically, and to begin to align yourself and to think about how you can work with the energies instead of trying to struggle against them.
Great. And I love that this time of year, obviously, because planning is so important. And I know that one of the biggest things I hear from my own clients is just that they want a roadmap.
Right.
Things are so much easier when you can stop rethinking things and reinventing the wheel every minute of every day, and you can just relax and have a plan.
Exactly. And we can take it on at different levels of complexity. And I suggest to people who are new to even entertaining the idea of astrology, focus on where the sun is during the course of the year through the 12 signs of the zodiac. So this time of year, it's the Capricorn. We're all working with that Capricorn energy of wanting to develop a strong foundation, to develop our capacity to be reliable, and to strengthen our own authority. This is the time to think about foundation and structure. And just working with that will improve things, right? Another layer of sophistication is to really follow the moon and work with the moon cycle. And the guide walks you through all of that. But I invite people to be curious about that and how they might work with it in their own life.
All right. Well, thank you for that tidbit and that wonderful information. And to the viewers out there, Happy New Year, and hope that you go with the flow of the year and enjoy the heck out of 2019.
Yes, Happy New Year. And thanks, Claire, for having me on. It's been fun talking with you.
Thanks for coming.
Okay. All right.
Bye.
Have a great year. Bye-bye.